we are starting the next session on emerging technologies. We have Mr. Dinesh Parekh, Senior Director, Sales Consulting Leader. Mr. Parekh will speak on the overall emerging technologies strength. He'll be joining us soon. I'll, however, give his introduction to you. He is a mechanical engineering graduate with 28 years experience spanning all critical functions of IT industry like software development, sales, consulting, service delivery and solution building over a range of technology and application solutions. Besides 8 years at Oracle, he has worked at GE Capital and SSA working with customers in India and North America. In his current role at Oracle, he leads a team of technology experts responsible for building cost-effective technology solutions that can transform customers' existing infrastructure to deliver order of magnitude benefits in cost reduction and performance enhancements. His team brings expertise in the area of Oracle database across all aspects: architecture, deployment, performance, high availability security, manageability, integration, operational simplification, etc. His team also specializes in building IT infrastructure solutions for big data and private cloud. When Mr. Parekh comes, I will request him to join on the dais tray. The other speakers we have Mr. Shumit D. Chaudhary. He is a multifaceted business and technical leader, having worked in leadership roles in Reliance Industries, where he was the CIO, and now heading the enterprise business IBM, where he is a VP and partner. Reliance EDAG, where he was the CIO and CEO of Reliance Tech Services. Bearing Point, where he was managing director and CEO in Australia and KPMG, where he was a partner in US and Australia. He is a Master of Science in Engineering and PhD in Management from Carnegie Mellon and BTech from IIT Kanpur. He brings a wealth of practical experience from his personal life and career. He was on board of directors of Telemanagement Forum and founder of Digital Bridge Foundation. He has been an entrepreneur and innovator, for which he has been awarded at various platforms and was also awarded to be one of the Global 50 CIOs by US Information Week. He is empaneled with the Outstanding Speakers Bureau. He is also a marathon runner, doing full marathons in slightly over 4 hours. Cyclist. He is a trained musician playing the piano, accordion, and he is an abstract artist whose work has been exhibited internationally. He recently participated in the CEO's Got Talent show hosted by CNBC TV 18. He is an angel investor and mentor for several technology and services startup companies in India. He supports various philanthropic causes involving education and children. Recently, he has published his book Rules of the Game, a career management guide targeting professionals who want to fast-track their careers. Then we have Mr. Dipankar Khashnovish. He has over 2 decades of experience in the areas of business consulting, strategy and planning, and business development and finance. He has worked in the areas of information technology, financial services and utility. He is at present the industry principal with Infosys India Consulting Unit and leads FSI government and healthcare segments. He has keen interest in the areas of technological, social and economic developments and how they are affecting the business domain. He has played critical roles in formulating and implementing business ideas in multiple areas. At present, he leads the government healthcare infrastructure consulting practice at Infosys India Business. He has been a regular speaker in various academic and professional institutions like IIM, Institute of Urban Transportation, NASSCOM, and many others. He is a BCom from IIT Kharagpur and PGTM from IIM Bangalore. Last but not the least, we have Ms. Kasturi Bhattacharjee. She is a director of the company designated and head of the vertical industry and society, which encompasses three domains: energy and utility, transport, public safety and security. She is a telecom and IT professional with 20 years of cross-functional experience spanning across multiple roles involving leadership of business units and verticals. Prior to this role, she was the head of OSS at Ericsson Global India Limited. Her earlier tenures include leader of telecom consulting practice PricewaterhouseCoopers, R&D engineer at Cisco Systems USA, member of scientific staff Nortel Networks USA, Cisco Systems USA, specializing around telecom, switching, routing and transmission systems for voice and data in wireless RF, TDMA and CDMA systems. We have Mr. Parekh with us. Yes, thank you. So we'll request Mr. Bhattacharya to take the discussion forward.
Thank you, Amana, and welcome to all the panelists. As we heard, we have a very distinguished set of panelists here, and they represent the emerging technologies. And as we were discussing earlier today, we're talking emerging technologies not just in IT, but the technologies that enable the industries that they represent. So I think we have a very good mix of subject matter knowledge in the industries that are shaping the world today, and also the corresponding technologies which the IT is driving to address those industries. So I think we are looking forward to a very interesting discussion. We have about an hour, so I would suggest that if perhaps each speaker spends about maybe up to 10 minutes on their presentation, that should leave us about 20 minutes for Q&A. I think that would be a way to go. I believe Mr. Parekh, you go first. Over to you, please.
We are talking about breaking the linearity of Indian services industry and how we do it. And this is the first time we are thinking about it. So these are some of the questions we will ponder over. We also have in our agenda as an integral part need to talk about emerging technologies, which essentially, we also will talk about emerging technologies and see what are the new tools, new ways available in our hands with which to make difference. And finally, I think we have a very distinguished panel who are more than qualified to talk about how it is impacting specific industry segments. And they're the ones who are servicing a big part of the global economy. So I think and I'm sorry I have not coordinated, but of course that you're okay. I will talk about emerging technologies and largely leave it to all of you to talk about how it flows down into specific industry segment. So is that okay? I will also try to stick to 10 minutes agenda, but I kind of not budgeted for that. I might go a little over if that's all right by you. I'll try to finish it as soon as I can. So breaking linearity is a very interesting thing. And I think till today, if you talk about a services company, and if I give you one number, you can pretty much break it down into the entire operational metrics within an error of plus minus 5%. If you say that turnover of a services company is $1 billion, but divided by a standard FTE rate, and you get number of people that are employees, you take this revenue and take 80% of it, and guess what you get? You get the number of people who are deployed and time and material engagement. What is time and material engagement? You are providing the right qualified resources with all the background support, and leaving project delivery and project management to your customers. These metrics need to change, because as long as we work on time and material basis, there is very little scope of breaking the linearity. The good thing is, the good news is, I think all the services company will vouch for it, that the move towards fixed price is happening. Customers are coming back and saying, you know what, the days are over. When I said I want 200 people and you gave me a standard billing rate and I deployed an army in my house. Now you have learned. You know what my systems are, you know what my challenges are, and you need to pass on the productivity benefit. So surprisingly, if you service the customer for, let's say, $10 million in year one, they will expect you to knock down their price at least by 10 to 15% when the time for renewal happens. How are you going to do that? If the number of people that you deploy on a project are going to be the same, there is no way you can do that. And building IP has again been something of an old thing with the services industry. It's not as though this is the first time we are thinking about it. People have tried to build IP, but guess what? It's not easy. Building an IP and maintaining it, it's not easy. Building it is relatively simple, but how do you maintain it over 10 years? How do you make sure that as changes happen to the system, the same are reflected back and it is maintained to the level of satisfaction of everybody? So that's the challenge we all start as a backdrop of. And to make things more interesting, I'll not say better or worse, we have a bunch of new technologies that have emerged seemingly out of nowhere. And it seems to be swarming whatever we do. So we'll just take a brief look, and you will have to please, I request you to pardon me if I rush through it. And I'm sure the panelists will have something very, very interesting to share. So we are just looking at some of the buzzwords, some of the new words, some of the emerging technologies that everybody is talking about. And none of this is really new. I know you all know this. What we need to know is, how do we use it? What does it take to really use it? And what impact can it possibly make? So if you look at just customer experience, everybody is talking about customer experience. What's become so different? Earlier, there was just standard ways in which a customer interacted with you. So they would give you a call, they would write a letter. Those days were old. They started making phone calls to your call center. But slowly, things are changing. If you look at the number of satisfied customers, it's about 1%. 99% of the customers are waiting to be grabbed by competition. Right? And how do you identify where the problem is? Who are the customers who are unhappy and why are they unhappy? So look at some of the things people keep posting. And these are small snippets. If a company is smart enough to take cognizance of it, if a company is smart enough to integrate it into their mainstream services and respond to a customer, they will be at an advantage. Otherwise, it is all lost in the noise. So there is a lot of noise, and there is some bit of very interesting information there. The challenge is, how do you extract it in a cost-effective way and integrate it into your mainstream business operation? Today, these are some of the channels that customers routinely use, right, to interact with any company, with any service provider, with a vendor, with a product OEM. You can come via web, mobile, social. So these are the various things. Which means that I may use one channel to identify the product that I need to buy. So if I want to buy a mobile, I'll probably put it on my Facebook saying, do you guys have a good recommendation? And my friends will come back and respond about what their experiences are. I'll then go check out a web store as to what is the stock position, what is the price I'm getting. Then I'll book. And I'll say, I'm going to pick up the set on my way to my office from a particular store. I go pick it up and I get it serviced somewhere else. So I'm using call center, I'm using mobile, I'm using the web channels, I'm using social, all just to fulfill a small transaction that I have need. It requires several of our traditional siloed systems to be integrated across channels. Obviously, we all understand that. If a system was built to be used only through a direct interface to your main system, now these channels add that much more complexity. So Oracle, by the way, offers a complete suite of products that enable you to capture interactions across various channels and integrate it to your backend enterprise systems that are running. The standard systems like order management or your inventory management. Big data is the other big buzz that we hear all the time. There are three things about big data, and I think we all understand that. It is about volume, velocity, and variety. Any one of us, typically we find all three in many cycles of data. So for example, we show a jet engine flying, a jet plane flying. Now, and this is an old thing. I mean, I noticed it with GE aircraft engines almost 12 years back. So as your flight takes off, during the course of the flight, the engine is continuously streaming data to the backend. right? And engineers at GE are capturing this data to analyze performance of the engine and do predictive analysis about what the maintenance requirement will be. So the volume of data you are generating is immense. The speed with which the data is coming to you is very, very high compared to what we are exposed to. And of course, the variety in terms of structured, unstructured, that has exploded now. So really, it's like proverbial finding a needle in a haystack, and how do you do that? The whole thing is, how do you do that in a cost-effective way? Right now, coming from a traditional background of systems where we churn large volume of structured data, business data, we are now talking about big data, which has a different cycle of data acquisition to analysis and organization of big data. That itself represents a very, very big challenge when you are talking about multiple terabytes of data flowing. So the new tools, of course, we are aware of the Hadoop framework, we are aware of the NoSQL construct through which we organize and manage this data. Oracle, again, brings to you engineered systems and products across all these stages of analyzing big data, from acquisition to organizing, analyzing, and deciding, making decisions about what you want to do. So this calls for a huge capacity of in-memory processing. It calls for tremendous I/O requirements. It calls for new technologies in how you organize your data. And the challenge is, today, I think the technology is known to all of us. But if you want to build a solution by assembling various components, you own all the pain, all the challenges of integrating these systems. So I think the job that an industry leader like Oracle does and brings to its customer is bring it all in a box, so that all the relevant tools and technologies are made available to you in a pre-integrated fashion. Some of the transformational technologies out of the emerging ones are cloud, mobile, and as I say, Internet of Things, and of course social. So again, I'll skip through. I think Kaushikda will be giving me disapproving looks in a short while, so I think I'll rush through this and try to quickly finish what I'm talking about. But the first generation of cloud that we tried using here and there had challenges of integrating. So if you have one application running on the cloud and rest of your applications running in your data center, how do you manage the two? How do you manage integration? How do you manage upgrades? How do you manage synchronization of data between the two? And what do you do if sometimes you have to make a decision of moving the application running on the cloud back into your data center, or some piece running into your data center onto the cloud? So all these pieces of flexibility were typically missing in the first generation of Oracle. From Oracle, we have tremendous growth on the cloud space, and we have seen terrific customer interest. We have offerings across what we call SaaS, which is software as a service. And there's a whole suite of products, starting from financial management to human capital management, talent management, customer service, marketing. We also offer facilities to you by which you can build your own private cloud. Which means in your organization, if you have 10 critical databases, you can now think of building a private cloud on which you will host these databases and improve service levels that have never been experienced before. And not to talk about the cost reduction you get in the process. Oracle again has a strategy for mobile integration, a very clear-cut defined strategy. So one, we expect our customers to build their own applications and want to integrate it to their mainstream applications. So Oracle offers you a complete suite of development tools with which you can develop and deploy your mobile applications. We also offer you a host of out-of-the-box mobile applications that directly integrate to your back-end mainstream systems. So I'll just give you a view of some of them. So these are some of the tools you can use to develop your own applications. And there is a whole suite of social applications that Oracle's come out with, which is called Oracle Social Relationship Management. So all these tools, all these applications can be directly deployed and integrated at the back end with your mainstream application. But these are some of the various tools. So when you talk about recruiting or when you talk about selling, when you talk about collaboration between various project teams. So I think the challenge will be for our services colleagues to kind of look at this and say, is there a possibility for me to use social collaboration to improve my productivity of my project team? And these are some of the things that I think will come into play as we go. The challenges, and I think yesterday we had a very interesting discussion about innovation. I think some of you were there and you would remember what we talked about. The crux of the situation is, if out of 100 rupees you are spending 16 rupees on innovation, there's only so much you can get out of it. The challenge is, how are you going to squeeze the $63 you are spending on routine maintenance? How are you going to simplify your current existing IT infrastructure, take dollars out of it, and increase the pie of what you put behind innovation? And I think that's the challenge our customers face, the challenge our service providers face, are using these emerging technologies for specific industries and building their own IP or building on the IP already available to service their customers in a more cost-effective way. Thank you very much, Prashita. I'm sorry if I overstayed my welcome. I'll pass it on to you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. We just heard about the views about the emerging technologies which are shaping today's landscape, how these technologies have moved from version to version and generation to generation, the promise it holds for enabling some of the newer technologies and solutions that business can benefit from. We will now move on to our next speaker, Dipankar Khashnovich from Infosys, and we will hear how these are actually coming to life in many of the industry forums.
Now I have less than 10 minutes or 6 minutes. Okay. Okay. I have a brief presentation. So, I'll be talking about healthcare. Now, I have two things to quickly tell. Neither I am a doctor nor a technologist. Now, anybody there in the audience who is a doctor? Not doctorate, but doctor, injection doctor. Lucky day. Okay, fair. Yeah, no medical doctors. Yeah. Okay, we are all patients. So what I have done is, I put some slides, of course some of it is already stolen by the emerging technologies we talked about, because I come from Infosys, a little bit of technology I have to talk for sure. I also looked at about, what is the status of the healthcare today. I will not be spending much time there. But we all know, I am sure everybody in this room will agree, not just in India, globally, but for certain countries, the healthcare is a big challenge. India for sure, right? Even the privileged people, so-called privileged people who are sitting in this room, today we have the access to the best of the hospitals, but increasingly the cost is becoming something which you can't afford. And leave aside the 90% who don't even have any iota of healthcare for themselves. And then I try to look at, if I customize some of these problems to India context and take some boundary conditions, that this is the reality it is going to be. At least for next 10 years, we can obviously have a right to, healthcare. Now we have right to education, right to food, and natural progression probably can be right to healthcare. But if we take the boundary condition, what it is today and what we have today, in spite of not having many things, we still have almost 1 million beds, we have 200,000 hospitals, so many doctors, nurses, and some of our healthcare staff are obviously the very best in the world, we know that. What we can really do using some technology, not a very high profile technology, as I may say, because obviously the infrastructure is not in place in many cases. You don't have people who have the capability. So that's what the format is, and I will obviously have to speed up some of this. Page down. Okay. Here it is. Okay. So this is what very quickly all of us has been reading in the paper. We have 0.9 beds, of course that translates to 1 million beds given that 1.3 million people. We have, we ideally should be 2 beds, developed countries, we have, shortage, sometimes people, you have seen in Bihar when that incident happened in the school, people have to carry their kids to 50-kilometer distance just to reach a primary healthcare center. At the same time, there are certain other megatrends happening. Lifestyle diseases are increasing. The number of people who are older category and the lifespan at the same time is increasing. So there is a huge pressure that is really coming on the healthcare sector. At the same, simultaneously there is this technological explosion that's happening. You have technology everywhere today. We have a phone in our hand, which is probably more powerful than the computer which was used to land people on the moon. And you hear about the cloud, you hear about 4G, WiMAX. You have this Gartner's, hype cycle of hundreds of technology which is probably having applications. Question is, can these two things come together in the context of India and solve some of the problems which we see today? I have just put some, green-red color. One side you of course see that our doctors are probably the very best in the world. Some of the hospitals are probably the very best in the world. You have global tourism. Hundreds of thousands of people are coming to this country, even for developed countries, to get treated. At the same time, if you take the statistics today, 80% of the people who are below poverty line, if they have one instance of serious healthcare problem in their family, they are indebted for generations, right? So it's actually extremes, right? And many of us think, can technology help it? Because technology sort of given this India emerging as superpower technology, we have this feeling probably technology is a solution to many things which we have. So I have again put in this slide what we really have. Healthcare management information system has been adopted in this country by at least the larger hospitals for many years with mixed results. Most of the cases you will find only the administrative portion of the hospital is probably using the HMIS. You have quickly couple of points. You have global players are too expensive from the technology perspective. Local players have been playing in this space from the in the healthcare, but it's a very fragmented market. 300 plus solutions probably available. We have achieved, of course, some amount of technology adoption in the healthcare space. If you go to a hospital today, when you go, you do registration. If you go to outpatient department, if you go to the lab, if you go to the radiology, you see technology is being used. Your billing is actually almost automated. The moment you get inside the hospital, of course, when you actually touch the clinical portion of the hospital, the doctors, the paramedics, the nurses, there is adoption of technology is very, very low. I'm just talking of the large hospital. Now, of course, if you go to the small, very small hospital as well as the public healthcare center, there's nothing really. So, having said that, this is what I sort of presented. The clinical side is red, administrative side is green, paraclinical, which is the paramedics and nurses, sort of in between. But having said that, we have a tremendous amount of resources. Take out the quality of that, which actually you have built over the years. You have 1 million doctors, 1 million nurses, 1 million ASHA workers, almost 1 million Anganwadi workers. We have 200,000 hospitals, 50,000 of them in the private sector. How do we really leverage the value instead of